All right, Raiders fans, let's dive right into it. The latest preseason clash left a lot to unpack, especially when it comes to how the team performed overall. Discipline was a major issue early on. Penalties piled up, and it felt like the Raiders struggled to set the edge defensively, which really hampered their ability to control the line of scrimmage. You could see moments of frustration bubbling up on the field, and that lack of discipline definitely played a role in how the game unfolded. Despite all of that, the game ended in a tie, but it wasn't without some standout moments that kept hope alive. Cam Miller was a huge bright spot. He came into the spotlight and showed why the quarterback 2 battle is very much a real competition. While Aiden O'Connell's numbers on paper looked decent, completing 18 out of 30 passes for a little over 200 yards, throwing 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, his performance left a lot to be desired. He was clearly struggling out there, and even though he was given plenty of chances, it just didn't come together. One play in particular stood out. That first interception, Dante Thornton Jr. managed to beat his corner, creating an opportunity that should have been a deep touchdown if the quarterback had a stronger arm. Instead, O'Connell underthrew it by about 10 yards, resulting in a pick. That kind of play is exactly where you see the limitations of his game. I was hoping to see more from him, but it was obvious he lacks the qualities Chip Kelly is looking for. Kelly's offense demands a quarterback who doesn't necessarily have to be a running threat, but needs to at least keep defenses honest with the possibility of running. Unfortunately, Aiden just didn't fit that mold tonight. Cam Miller, on the other hand, showed flashes of what could be. When asked to run, he did so effectively. 6 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown is nothing to scoff at. His 41-yard strike to Cedric Jackson was a highlight, especially the way he set it up with a pump fake that fooled the safety. That kind of veteran-level move, the kind of subtle playmaking you might even compare to Tom Brady, was a reminder that Miller has tools worth developing. The Raiders certainly gained some momentum from that drive, and it was refreshing to see a level of fight and grit from the team in the fourth quarter. Now, looking at who stood out on the Raiders' side, there are a few names worth mentioning. Thomas Booker, the defensive tackle the Raiders traded for, showed up big time with consistent interior pressure. His hustle was noticeable, and he reminded me a bit of Adam Butler. Not the fastest or biggest, but with a quick first step that can disrupt offenses. Jamal Adams also put in a solid performance. And of course, Cam Miller deserves to be in that conversation as well. On the offensive side, Geno Smith showed some promise despite not having the best stats. He had a couple of drops from Dante Thornton and Jacoby Myers, but the offense moved the ball at times. Trey Tucker made some early plays, and Cedric Jackson's 4 catches for 76 yards, including that big catch from Miller, gave some spark to the attack. Alex Bachman also impressed enough to possibly make a case for a roster spot, especially considering O'Connell seemed to favor targeting him. There were, however, some concerns on the offensive line. The depth just didn't show up tonight. Munford's performance was rough, Caleb Rogers struggled, and Charles Grant didn't look sharp either. Jordan Meredith and Jackson Powers-Johnson saw a lot of action, but even they didn't provide the stability the Raiders needed. The line was pushed around more than it should have been, and that's especially worrying given how much the Raiders rely on solid blocking to open running lanes and protect their quarterback. Speaking of the running game, Dylan Lobe looked solid with 5 carries for 34 yards, including a smart run where he adjusted mid-play to find space and picked up a big chunk of yardage. Philip Dorsett continued to show potential with 3 catches for 36 yards and a couple of touchdowns in the mock game, but he still faces an uphill battle to secure a spot on the roster. The defense had its ups and downs. Isaiah Palmelo made some good plays, including an interception, but there were also several missed tackles that the Raiders need to clean up. The team fought hard, clawing back from a 16-3 deficit at halftime and later from a 23-13 score, showing resilience despite the challenges. However, Pete Carroll and the Seahawks backup players they faced likely wouldn't be impressed by the Raiders' lackluster showing, especially on defense. Looking at the big picture, the Raiders did not play well. There's no sugarcoating it. The fundamentals, discipline, and execution all fell short, and that's a concern as the regular season approaches. The offense showed some sparks but struggled to maintain consistency, and the defense didn't meet expectations either, especially against backup players from Seattle's team. It's clear that more work needs to be done, particularly in improving interior depth on the defensive line and shoring up the secondary's coverage abilities. Questions are swirling about the quarterback situation as well. Miller's performance suggests he deserves to be part of the conversation for the number 2 spot, especially considering the way he handled himself on the field. But there's also the risk of throwing him into action too soon. O'Connell's struggles highlight the difficulty of adapting to yet another new offensive system. This was his third in as many years. The learning curve is steep, and the Raiders need to decide carefully how they want to manage that development. Fans are understandably anxious about several positions. Munford's poor showing has raised eyebrows, with some thinking his time with the Raiders might be coming to an end. Meanwhile, there's curiosity about whether the team might shift Jackson Powers-Johnson to center or keep Jordan Meredith there. The health of Alex Kappa is also a question mark after he didn't play due to injury concerns. These lineup decisions will be crucial as the team tries to find stability. There's even speculation about whether the team was showcasing certain players like Aiden O'Connell to create trade value, but his recent performances suggest that his stock isn't rising right now. The offense's reliance on short routes fits O'Connell's strengths, but the lack of arm strength and mobility limits what the team can do in Chip Kelly's system. The offensive line remains a major worry, especially given how Gentry struggled to find running lanes with such poor blocking in front of him. The Raiders' ability to protect their backs and quarterbacks will be critical moving forward, and tonight's game showed there's still a long way to go. Looking ahead, the next preseason game against the San Francisco 49ers is already shaping up to be a must-watch. The Raiders will need to show significant improvement on both sides of the ball if they want to build confidence and momentum heading into the regular season. This game was a reality check, but it also highlighted some individual performances that could form the foundation for better days ahead. That's where the focus now shifts, cleaning up the penalties, tightening up the defense, and continuing to develop the young talent that showed flashes tonight. The Raiders have the pieces, but they need to start putting it all together. Diving deeper into the Raiders' preseason performance, it's impossible to ignore the glaring issues that linger beneath the surface. While some individual flashes provide hope, the overall coherence of the team on both offense and defense remains a significant concern. The lack of chemistry was apparent, and that's hardly surprising given the constant shuffle in personnel and coaching adjustments the team has endured over recent seasons. This preseason game reinforced the fact that the Raiders still have a long way to go before they can be considered a cohesive unit capable of competing at a high level week in and week out. On the offensive side, it wasn't just the quarterback battle that stood out as problematic. The entire offensive scheme looked disjointed at times, struggling to maintain rhythm or sustain drives. The running game was inconsistent, which is particularly worrying because establishing a reliable ground attack is crucial in Chip Kelly's offense. When the offensive line fails to hold up, as it did frequently, it hampers the ability of the backs to find daylight and puts undue pressure on the quarterback to make plays under duress. It's clear the offensive line's depth is not up to the standard needed for a demanding, fast-paced offense. Injuries and inconsistent play have forced backups into starting roles, and that showed with the lack of push at the line of scrimmage. The Raiders need to address this gap in the offseason, possibly by adding veteran free agents or developing their younger players more aggressively. The receivers, while showing glimpses of talent, still haven't quite clicked in terms of timing and route precision. Drops at critical moments stalled momentum and prevented the offense from capitalizing on what should have been productive drives. That 41-yard connection between Cam Miller and Cedric Jackson was a highlight precisely because it felt so rare. A perfectly timed play where the quarterback and receiver were in sync, executing with confidence and precision. But unfortunately, plays like that were too few and far between, leaving the offense feeling disjointed and lacking in explosiveness. Defensively, the Raiders struggled to maintain pressure and contain opposing backs and receivers. Despite some bright spots from players like Thomas Booker and Jamal Adams, the defense as a whole failed to consistently disrupt the opposing offense's rhythm. Missed tackles and blown assignments contributed to allowing chunk plays that kept the Raiders on their heels. It's a reminder that the defensive scheme needs fine-tuning and the players need to tighten their execution. A defense that can't stop the run or force turnovers won't give the offense enough chances to control the game, and that's a dangerous position for any team aiming for playoff contention. Discipline, or rather the lack of it, was a recurring theme. Penalties killed drives and extended the opposition's time of possession, which in turn fatigued the Raiders' defense and wore down their chances of mounting successful comebacks. It's something head coach Chip Kelly and his staff have to address immediately. Too many penalties indicate a lack of focus and poor communication on the field, issues that need fixing in practice and through strong leadership. Special teams also showed room for improvement. While the kicking game was stable, the return game lacked the spark that could have shifted momentum in the Raiders' favor. Effective special teams play can often be the difference in close games, and the Raiders need to sharpen that aspect to support their efforts on offense and defense. Beyond the on-field performance, the preseason game underscored questions about roster construction and player development. The Raiders have a mix of young players with potential and veterans trying to maintain their spots, but balancing those needs isn't easy. Players like Alex Bachman and Philip Dorsett demonstrated potential, but remain unproven at the NFL level. The coaching staff has to decide how much playing time to allocate to developing these players versus relying on more experienced personnel to win games in the short term. This balancing act is critical because preseason games aren't just about winning. They're about evaluating talent and preparing the team for the grind of the regular season. The quarterback situation remains one of the most intriguing and complex storylines. Cam Miller's mobility and ability to extend plays clearly add a dimension that Aiden O'Connell lacks. But Miller also needs to prove he can consistently make the right decisions under pressure. O'Connell's arm strength and pocket presence might offer a safer, if less dynamic, option, but his struggles with interceptions and accuracy raise doubts about his ability to thrive in Kelly's system. The coaching staff faces a difficult choice in deciding who will back up the starter during the season. This decision will impact not only the game plan, but also the overall morale and confidence of the team. In terms of coaching, Chip Kelly's system demands precision and quick decision-making, which can be tough for players adjusting to the speed and complexity of the NFL. The Raiders' inconsistent execution hints at a team still adapting to this philosophy. There's no doubt Kelly is a visionary offensive mind, but his style requires players who are fast learners and mentally sharp. If the team struggles to execute his game plan, it could lead to frustration and second-guessing, both on and off the field. The coaching staff will need to emphasize discipline and fundamentals in the coming weeks, focusing on reducing mental errors and improving communication. The mental aspect of the game can't be overlooked either. Preseason is a high-pressure environment for players fighting for roster spots, and nerves can lead to mistakes. So the penalties and drop passes could be attributed to this. As the season progresses, gaining confidence and familiarity with the system should help reduce these errors. Still, the Raiders need to create a supportive environment that encourages players to learn from their mistakes without fear of losing their jobs prematurely. In a surprising turn of events that has set the NFL rumor mill ablaze, whispers are circulating that the Las Vegas Raiders are finalizing a bold move to acquire British defensive end EFE Obada from the Washington Commanders. While no official statement has been released by either franchise, several insiders have hinted at ongoing discussions behind closed doors that could see Obata making a dramatic switch to the silver and black. Known for his incredible journey from the streets of London to the NFL stage, Obata has become a cult favorite among fans and a symbol of international success in American football. The potential transfer is being framed not only as a strategic move by the Raiders to bolster their defensive line, but also as a cultural statement aimed at expanding the franchise's global brand. With Raiders owner Mark Davis reportedly keen on tapping into the European market, the addition of a British-born player of Obata stature would serve as both a footballing and marketing coup. Though nothing has been confirmed, several NFL analysts have noted increased communication between the two front offices, fueling speculation that something significant is brewing beneath the surface of standard preseason maneuvering. If true, this move could redefine the Raiders' defensive identity moving forward. Adding more fuel to the speculation, sources close to the Commanders' camp have quietly acknowledged that there has been interest from several teams regarding EFE Obada, but the Raiders appear to be the most aggressive in their pursuit. The British-born defensive end has reportedly impressed during off-season workouts, showcasing not only his explosive power off the line, but also his growing reputation as a vocal leader in the locker room. The Raiders, who have been seeking depth and experience on the edge, seem poised to take advantage of Washington's roster depth by potentially offering draft capital or younger players in exchange. While the Commanders haven't expressed a clear intention to move Obata, NFL history has shown that every player has a price, and if the Raiders can meet it, this transfer could become one of the more unexpected storylines of the 2025 preseason. EFE Obada's journey through the NFL has already defied the odds, having entered the league through the International Player Pathway Program. Now, rumors of his departure from Washington to join a franchise steeped in tradition like the Raiders adds yet another remarkable chapter to his story. However, until an official announcement is made, fans on both sides are left wondering if this potential shift is grounded in truth or just another off-season mirage. What makes the potential acquisition of EFE Obada particularly intriguing is how it fits into the Raiders' broader defensive strategy under new coordinator Ron Miles. The franchise has been actively reshaping its defensive front, aiming to build a more aggressive and unpredictable unit that can keep up with the high-octane offenses of the AFC West. Obata's hybrid ability to play both inside and outside positions on the line gives him the versatility that many modern defensive schemes covet. For a Raiders team that has long struggled with consistency in pressuring opposing quarterbacks, adding a seasoned professional like Obata could pay immediate dividends. Furthermore, his character and work ethic align with the culture the Raiders are attempting to instill under the new regime. Multiple unnamed sources suggest that internal discussions have been ongoing for several weeks, with some even claiming Obata has privately expressed interest in joining the Raiders, attracted by the challenge and the allure of playing in Las Vegas. While these reports remain unverified, they've sparked a flurry of interest online, with fans dissecting every social media move and public appearance of both Obata and Raiders staff. The buzz has only intensified as preseason rosters begin to solidify and time runs out for significant acquisitions before the regular season kicks off. The move, if confirmed, would also mark a significant moment for British representation in the NFL, with EFE Obada becoming one of the few UK-born players to be prominently featured in a marquee franchise like the Raiders. Analysts and international commentators have been quick to point out the symbolic weight of such a transfer, highlighting how Obata's possible transition to Las Vegas could spark a wave of interest in American football across the United Kingdom and Europe. The Raiders, known for their rebellious identity and history of embracing outsiders, would arguably be the perfect cultural fit for a player like Obata, whose own journey has been marked by adversity, resilience, and triumph. Though details of a potential deal remain shrouded in secrecy, some speculate that the Raiders may unveil Obata as a surprise addition during one of their international promotional events, perhaps even aligning the announcement with NFL initiatives aimed at growing the game globally. Regardless of whether this transfer materializes, the sheer volume of speculation has already begun to shift attention toward Obata in ways that could increase his profile and market value, both domestically and abroad. In the eyes of many fans and insiders alike, this is more than just a player move. It's a potential landmark moment in the global evolution of the NFL. Of course, it's essential to remember that nothing is finalized until ink meets paper, and both teams have remained tight-lipped despite the growing buzz. Yet in the absence of concrete denials, the rumor of EFE Obada's move to the Raiders has continued to gain momentum. The defensive end himself has neither confirmed nor denied the possibility, fueling even more speculation about what might be going on behind the scenes. Observers have noted his recent cryptic social media posts, including a now-deleted photo of a desert skyline, as possible hints toward a Vegas relocation. While this could simply be off-season mischief, it aligns too well with the timeline and tone of ongoing trade whispers to be dismissed entirely. If the deal does go through, it could serve as a masterstroke for the Raiders in both tactical and commercial terms, while also potentially giving the Commanders more room to develop younger talent or fill gaps elsewhere. Until then, fans and analysts will continue to debate, theorize, and speculate over the potential arrival of one of Britain's most inspiring football exports to one of the NFL's most iconic franchises. One thing is clear: whether fact or fiction, the story of EFE Obada and the Raiders has captured the league's attention, and it's far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.